Joining me now is Daryl Parks. He's co-counsel for the Martin family. Daryl Parks, you heard what Mark O'Meara had to say there, pretty scathing about Ben Crump, your colleague. Tell me your reaction.
Well, I think Mark O'Meara has made a decision to come after my law partner for whatever reason. The truth of the matter is Mr. O'Meara and the rest of the world must understand that at a time when no one else was giving justice to the Martin family, my law partner, Ben Crump, was the guy who took on this crusade to get justice for Trayvon Martin. When the police refused to arrest him, refused to further investigate, he was the one person that believed in moving forward to try and get justice in this case. And so he may not have an appreciation for it, right? But at least there was enough evidence there that we needed to have him arrested and to have the trial that we're having now. Now, he may not have an appreciation for it at all, but this is how we got to justice.
Let's turn to some of the key things that came out today, particularly perhaps the late revelation in the day that Trayvon Martin's toxicology report will be made public in court, which will include, of course, the fact that he had cannabis in his system, albeit a very small amount of cannabis. What is your response to that decision?
Well, number one, I think that the law had to be followed and the judge had to allow it in. However, I think once again we have a situation where the defense counsel has made a very conscious decision that they are committed to making this 17-year-old young black child appear to be some thug and to throw him into some negative light. It is totally wrong what they are trying to do to his character and to the image of him in this case. It has no place in this case because the truth of the matter is this case is about what happened during that 7 minutes that the two of them were engaged. And so to try and throw other issues into it and to make him appear to be some thug we've seen where they have, even before this trial started, taken pictures of Trayvon that they knew was not going to be in evidence and put it into the public domain. They continued on this crusade to make him appear to be somebody that he wasn't. And it's totally, totally wrong, Piers.
Has it been a mistake by the prosecution to not have more people testify that they recognised Trayvon Martin's voice in the crucial tape, the 911 tape that has a male voice screaming? Because the defence put up so many people today who acted not just as advocates, if you like, for the fact it was George Zimmerman's voice, but also giving great character witness testimony about him in the process, quite effective to a jury. Whereas on your side, you're basically left with, you know, his father, Trayvon's father, and his brother, both having to concede that their initial reaction was they couldn't tell if it was Trayvon or not, which is not that helpful.
Well, two things. Number one, I agree that the amount of character evidence that they got into the testimony earlier today was probably out of bounds in terms of the amount that was there and probably opened the door on some of the character evidence that they introduced in a very sly way. Number two, though, I think that we certainly know that the strategy as to how many people the state used is a strategy that they have. However, you must remember that they have the right to put on the rebuttal case as well, too. And I'm pretty sure that they will consider the possibility of putting on other rebuttal witnesses in their case when they come to that point.
Is it likely that your partner, Ben Crump, will give evidence?
Well, you know, yesterday I took Ben's deposition. And the deposition went fairly well. We were happy with what they got out. They didn't get much of what they thought they were going to get out of it. But again, it appears that they have an issue with my law partner. They continue to try to inject him into this case. This case is not about Ben Crump or any of the lawyers working on this case. It's not about Mark O'Meara either. This case is about a 17-year-old unarmed black child who was walking from the store, and this guy decides to go after him. That's what this case is about. All the other sideshow issues have no place in the court of law. And no matter what it takes, we're going to continue to push very hard to make sure that that's the focus and not the focus that they're trying to make of putting Trayvon in the negative light, his cell phone and all these other issues. His cell phone had not one thing to do with his death. And so what has to do with his death is once they got to the ground, that George Zimmerman, who has tried to portray himself as a person who couldn't fight, who couldn't do anything, who hadn't exercised. We now know he lost 50 pounds from exercising, yet for some reason he couldn't defend himself. Had he waited less than a minute, we know that the cops were there. So his life was not, I mean, and you have to think about this case. He killed this kid. And at the end of the day, we have to remember that there was a life lost here and not allow anyone to discount Trayvon's life.
Daryl Parks, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.